Hello, this broadcast is live. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining the event. So we're just going to wait a minute or two just to make sure that we are broadcasting live, and we'll give the opportunity to a few more people to join. So we will start very shortly. Thank you for joining. We'll just wait one more minute, perhaps, till we get the green light, and then we will make a start. Okay, let's make a start then. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining this Atkins and Me online panel event. So I'm just going to talk a little bit for 5 minutes at the start to explain the structure of the event. I will introduce myself and talk a little bit about Atkins, and then we'll go on to the questions with the panelists. So thank you very much today for joining me. We have Sarah, who is a senior engineer. We have Monserrat, and we have Liz, and like myself, they are also graduate engineers. So the structure of the event, I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves after my introduction. We've got some questions that I'll be asking about our careers in engineering in general, and then some more specific questions about working at Atkins. Then towards the end, Liz will be talking a little bit about the networks within Atkins, such as the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Network and the Empower Network, which is the Gender Balance Support Network. And then at the end of the session, for the last 10 minutes, we hope to have about 10 minutes time for any questions. So if you want to post questions, then please do so, and we should be able to see them. So I will introduce myself first. My name's Laura. I'm a graduate mechanical engineer. I am working in the Atkins office in Bristol. I studied at the University of Bristol, so it's a place that I wanted to stay. And I've been working for 1 year now. When I joined Atkins, I was put in the HVAC team. Well, I chose to join the HVAC team in the nuclear and power business in Bristol. So for the past year, I've been working in HVAC, which is heating, ventilation and air conditioning, generally for ancillary buildings on nuclear power plants. So I've gotten to do a bit of system design, and I've also worked on some decommissioning projects. But recently, for the past 6 months, I've been working on a secondment, and that's one of the benefits of working for Atkins, is that you get to, there are lots of opportunities to be seconded to other companies. So at the moment, I'm seconded to a company called Advance, which is a subsidiary of EDF and Framatome. And we are working towards the Hinkley Point C project, which is the large nuclear power plant that's being built in Somerset. So within my secondment, I'm working on designing ventilation systems for the ventilation system for the HHI building, which is the intermediate level waste storage building at Hinkley Point C. So that's a bit about me. Now let's talk about Atkins. So it's a world-leading engineering consultancy, design and project management consultancy as well. Our main values are safety, integrity, collaboration and innovation. So within nuclear and power, our main projects are Hinkley Point C. We are also involved in small modular reactor projects. ITER is an experimental fusion project in the south of France. We also have decommissioning teams. We have power generating asset teams that work with nuclear plants that are currently up and running. And our main locations are Bristol, Derby, Epsom, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Sheffield, and Whitehaven. So those are the places you could go if you are applying for a mechanical engineering graduate role in nuclear and power. So that was my little introduction. Now I'll ask the panelists to introduce themselves. So maybe Sarah, you could go first and tell us a bit about what you do and how and when you started working with Atkins.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, all good.
Cool, brilliant. Yeah, so yeah, my name's Sarah. I'm a senior mechanical engineer, also in Bristol, in the nuclear and power business. So I've been with Atkins about 5 years now. I joined as a chartered engineer just through the recommendation of colleagues, and have been on a variety of different roles since then. Currently, I'm also seconded to HPC, so working on similar stuff to Laura, actually, HVAC, seeing more of the manufacturing, construction, and that sort of side of things down at site. So really enjoying it.
Cool, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, Sarah and I have worked together a bit in advance before. She's now moving on. So Liz, how about you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Liz. I joined Atkins as a graduate in 2019. So I'm still on the graduate programme, which is 3 years. I work in the plant systems and safety team within nuclear and power. So that comes under nuclear generating assets. So looking after, well, what I do is looking after kind of some of EDF Energy's kind of currently generating fleet of advanced gas cool reactors. So a lot of what I do is safety case based, and I've been working on my project, which is modelling the graphite core of those nuclear reactors and their response to a response to a seismic event. So making sure that we can still safely shut down the reactor during and after a seismic event if it were to happen right underneath the core. So largely safety case based, but there is technical. What I do is quite a technical role. I also studied mechanical engineering at Bristol, so I think I was a couple of years ahead of Laura, but yeah, and decided to stay in Bristol as well.
Cool, thanks a lot, Liz. And Monserrat.
Hello, everyone. I'm Monserrat, and my story is a little bit different to the other attendees. I study mechanical engineering design at the University of Manchester, but then I joined a nuclear graduates program, which is like a program or a scheme in which you do rotations between different companies. Right now, I'm working at Atkins as a second D, so I'll be working for Atkins 8 months, and I chose Atkins because I felt like I wanted to explore the consultancy world, and I felt it has a really good reputation all over the world. So that's were my main reasons, and I'm really happy to be at Atkins now in Bristol office as the rest of the panelists as well.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone. And yeah, just to reiterate, so Liz and myself went through the graduate scheme. So if you have any questions, well, we're still on the graduate scheme. If you have any questions specifically to that, we can answer. Sarah's a more experienced senior engineer, and Monserrat is doing a placement, as she mentioned, with the nuclear graduate scheme. So if anyone is interested in perhaps a summer or industrial placement, she might be able to share that kind of experience of a short-term placement. Great, thank you. So now we'll move on to some of the questions I have. We'll spend 10 or 15 minutes on these questions, focusing on engineering and what it's like being a female engineer and our careers. And then the following 15 minutes will focus specifically on Atkins and the culture and how we find working here. So, Monserrat, I'm going to ask you the first question. What inspired you to study mechanical engineering and to become an engineer?
Actually, I started. I'm from Spain, actually, and I started my bachelor's or my my degree. Studied there as a generalist engineer, but then I really felt in love with mechanical. I really like to see things physically,
Yeah.
And actually, from school, it happened from school. I really like maths, physics, and as everyone, I think, in this panel, but I really like solving problems in my daily day, actually, not only in engineering. And I found really interested to become an engineer because you are always with challenges and trying to solve problems. You can keep thinking about things, collaborating with other people, always like tackling world challenges. And these days, more than ever, like we can have net zero as a kind of a good challenge for the new engineers or the upcoming new ones. We had like COP26 last month in Glasgow, so I think it's a really good time to be an engineer.
I agree. Yeah, I feel the same. I feel like it's a very exciting time to be an engineer, and there's a lot of variety of projects to get involved in. Okay, thank you. Next question for Sarah. How did you find out about Atkins, and what attracted you? Maybe there's something that you valued in particular or wanted as a female engineer that you saw in Atkins.
So I came over to the UK 7 years ago from New Zealand, moved over, and had never really worked in the nuclear industry. So that was the first job I happened to get when I moved over. And I was just an independent consultant, worked with quite a few other consultancies as well, different contractors. And when I was looking to stay long term, I was looking to move into a consultant role. And I'd worked with a lot of Atkins staff, and they're all really, really helpful. They're always the ones you could trust to deliver quality work. They always spoke really highly of Atkins. They're really friendly and approachable and all that sort of thing. So that was really why I wanted to join. And I found a really good sense, I guess. I was really after the support, I think, to know that as a female engineer I'd be allowed to grow and develop, and that there'd be plenty of opportunities. I think consultancy definitely gives you that.
Yeah, I agree. I found the same. It's nice to work for a consultancy because you get that variety and you get that say in what projects you work in, and what companies you work for as well, if you want to do secondments, which I think most of us have. Okay, thank you. Liz, I'll ask you the next question. This is one about the transition from university to work. So can you tell us a bit about how you found that transition from a student to the graduate scheme with Atkins?
I think it just comes with any kind of full-time job. When you start a full-time job, you find it exhausting because you're not used to having to work 9 till 5 solidly. You can take breaks whenever you want when you're doing your own uni work. But it was also, it's quite intense initially, but once you get used to it, it's so nice having weekends and evenings free.
Yeah.
And one thing that Atkins is really good for as well is that kind of people within the business, they really promote work-life balance. I mean, we've got the opportunity to buy additional kind of leave, which is essentially you can take up to 3 weeks of extra leave, which is kind of unpaid. So you buy it back, but it's essentially you're paying what you would have been paid for those weeks. So you could have up to kind of 3 weeks of additional leave on top of the standard leave, which is really good. That's not very common at all from what I hear. But yeah, there's a huge push on work-life balance, and kind of sometimes, I mean, working overtime is sometimes needed. I've never had to do it. We will try and avoid it. So it really is your free time. It really is your own time, which is so nice. And also it's just, you don't have the stress of exams, and so I know a lot of graduate schemes for other places you might have to sit exams for qualifications, and you don't have to do that here. It's quite nice in that aspect. Your free time is your own. And actually at the moment we're working on you can do like 2 days. I think it's recommended that we work 2 days in the office and the rest at home or whatever, but you can do whatever you want. If you want to work more from home, as long as you agree with your line manager, or you can go into the office like full time. Like, it's becoming a lot easier. The transition's becoming a lot easier, I think, and there's buses and stuff that work provides. So actually, it's not so big a jump. It's just getting used to the change in format of your days.
Exactly, yeah. That's one of the things I was really happy to learn was the flexi time. So there's no, well, maybe the core hours are 10 to 3 or 10 to 4 or something, but if you are a morning person, you could start at 7 or 8 and then finish earlier, and vice versa. If you'd rather start at 9 or 10 and finish later, then there's usually the ability to do that.
That's true. Something I do as well, which is probably worth highlighting, is that I work longer hours Monday to Thursday, so I can have a half day on a Friday, which
Nice.
obviously you need to make sure that you're able to do that. If you don't have any major client meetings or anything, as long as you can still effectively do your work, then and have it agreed with your line manager or whatever. So they're quite receptive to kind of be flexible around you, which is quite nice. You don't get that many places. A lot of places aren't able to do that, so it's quite a nice thing to have.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you. Next question, I'm going to ask another one for you, Sarah. What steps have you taken to progress in your career, and what does the future hold for you?
Ooh, not sure about the last part yet. Didn't really predict COVID, so who knows what the future will hold. But career-wise, I guess I have probably just gone with the kind of consultancy thing, so really taken on different roles where I've seen gaps in my knowledge or things I wanted to learn. I've picked up different project roles or different more technical work, and I basically progressed that way. I really enjoy that. I think I like the flexibility that I can choose what I want to do next, and the company's involved in so many different projects. There's just so many different things you can try. If there's something you find you really like, you can start to pursue that as a career. I've always had the support to make any of those changes. There's also been some really good training, so leadership. There's some leadership and management and women in leadership training as well that Atkins offers and really supports people doing. So it just then helps with your day-to-day job as well. So when you're on secondment, you can take those learnings from the internal trainings and apply them in what you're doing. Yeah, as I say, not entirely sure what the future will hold yet.
Well, who knows? But one of the good things is that, the number of opportunities, and something that I would personally love to do would be to get involved in one of the opportunities abroad sometime. And within Atkins, as it's a consultancy as well, once you're in, you can then, it's much easier to, if you want to change field or move to a different team, once you're within the business, you can move around within it. So that's another benefit of Atkins, is that it has a lot of other sectors, not just nuclear and power. So next question. I'll go back
so if
to
you
you,
want to try
Liz.
something different or a new challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it really is the world. The power is in your hands.
Yeah, actually, I can add a bit of this because I joined Atkins last September, so barely like 2-3 months, and I am with the new builds team in nuclear and power, but I'm getting some work from other teams as well. So I'm already involved in different teams. So I can say for sure that from the early beginnings, you can be involved in different things depending on what you like to explore, what you like to develop yourself in which areas.
Yeah, definitely. As a graduate, there's the opportunity to do bits of work for other teams, because again, as a consultancy, you might have varying work and demand within different teams. So some teams might need to outsource resources and might advertise, projects to graduates within other teams. So I've had the similar opportunities as Monserrat. I did a bit of work in decommissioning, even though I'm in the power new build sector. Liz, what have you worked on that's been enjoyable, and why?
So the projects I have worked on for the past year now, just over, which I went out. Well, I basically tried to get on this project because I thought it looked really good, and I managed to get onto it, which I'm pleased about. Is as I mentioned earlier, modelling the seismic response of the graphite cores. So we've got quite a complex model, which has been like programmed. There's loads of different parts to it that feed into it, and we model our own we've created our own spring dampers, so our own abacus elements and stuff, to model the interactions between the components within the graphite core. So graphite core is made up of like different, we call them bricks, but essentially it's what makes up the channels that you put the fuel and the control rods into. And so a big part of this model is demonstrating that even during a seismic event, the interstitial channels, which the control rods go down, they distort obviously because the core moves, but that they don't distort significantly, so that we can still put the control rods down. All of the control rods within the core, all of the way, all of the time, is like our criteria for that safety case. So it does form a safety case, which is like a massive report. But I don't like, there is reporting sides to my role, but also there's a lot of technical stuff. I do Python. I've written Fortran to model kind of interactions between different parts of the core. There's just a lot of moving parts, and I find it's quite intricate and complicated. So I really enjoy getting into the depths of that, and what that entails, and then seeing how that is useful. Like having an application for all of that modeling is really, I find quite rewarding. But yeah, I think I really enjoy working on my project.
Yes, it is.
Great.
I find it really interesting what you're saying, Liz. I think I can add a bit of this as well, because even though I joined like just 2 months ago, I cannot tell that with that much of a detail, but I've been involved like 3 weeks ago in fusion energy. So I think I'm part of the team who are in which they are creating like the first facility in the UK for fusion. So I feel like it's really cutting edge technology, and I just joined Atkins, and it feels like really an interesting project to get involved in, because it's kind of really new. Nothing has been done before like that. So I find it really rewarding and exciting to work on that as well.
Yeah, me too. It's the same. They're quite big projects as well in nuclear and power. Hinkley Point C is going to provide, I think, 7% of the UK's electricity, so really big. And again, with nuclear fusion, that's so important in the future. So it's very exciting. And similarly to Liz, I find that in my role, I get to do some technical and some more project management. It's nice to have that balance of, not doing coding and drawings and calculations all day, but equally not report writing and team managing all day. I get to do a bit of both, and you have a say in what you want to get involved in. And as we develop as graduates, there's lots of paths we can choose, and generally there's the kind of technical side and the project management side, and there's also, you can continue as a specialist in either of those, or you can continue doing kind of having your eggs in multiple baskets and maintaining both of those aspects. So for me, that's what I'm enjoying at the moment.
If I could just add on to that, Laura, I've just recently, in the last kind of 6 months, started in a more technical lead role. So you'll generally start a project as a task engineer, and kind of get more experience, and then as time goes on, when you have the expertise to lead someone else, and instruct them on what to do and how you want things done, and you can kind of mentor them in that role as well as they're gaining experience. It's really nice. In Atkins, I found that you get responsibility quite readily. People are, I mean, not to scare anyone. You only get it when they think you're ready for it. But it's nice that people kind of are ready to give you that responsibility and stuff. And there are mentors. So, for example, I'm being mentored in a verification task that I'm leading right now, which is my first one. So, having regular check-ins with my mentor, and just learning on the job is how you develop most of the time. So, it's really good. I'm really enjoying it, and it's not too daunting.
On the topic of mentors, we are encouraged and supported to go for chartership as mechanical engineers with the IMechE, or the Institute of Mechanical Engineers, and within Atkins they will fund your membership, and you will be we have mentors within the business who will you can get in contact with the mentor on your team or on another team. I found that it's nice to have a mentor from another team to get a different perspective, but they will guide you throughout the 4 years that it takes to achieve the chartership. Also, if you have any previous experience, such as any summer internships or year placements, that can count for your chartership. And chartership is a great way to make sure that you are developing, because in order to achieve the chartership, you need to have evidence that you're meeting certain competencies, such as project management and leadership and a bit of finance, maybe bidding. So ensuring that you're developing not just on the technical side, which I think is really important. Okay, I think we're good for time. So that's about halfway through our questions. Now we're going to switch to questions that are quite more focused on what it's like working for Atkins and the networks that we have, etc. So just a few comments that I'd like to make is that part of the reason that we're doing this online event is because Atkins is investing more heavily in graduates and especially in diversity. So it's one of the key components of engineering is having a diverse range of ideas for our innovation value. And Atkins are aware that there's this issue of not enough females in the industry, and we want to get as much diversity in our graduate intake as we can. So that's one of the reasons that we're putting on events like these and doing outreach to primary schools and things like that. Another comment I'd like to make is that it's, as Monserrat has mentioned, it's quite an exciting time to be an engineer. And also Atkins are very much looking ahead and thinking about COP26 and thinking about sustainability and really ensuring that a lot of our projects are going in that direction. So bear that in mind while we go into the next few questions. Sarah, a question for you. What do you love about working for Atkins and its culture?
Many things. I really like I guess we've mentioned all the networks and the communities, so there's lots of different communities you can join. I particularly enjoy doing STEM work, always have, so I've kept doing that since a graduate. But there's some really cool initiatives that we've got. I've done some mentoring, but there's also we did like building school playground with some year 5, so we went to the school for sort of 8 weeks and helped them develop a playground, and that should get built in Kenya at some point. COVID kind of interrupted, but that was really cool. And then we've got the net zero competitions for schools as well, so again we're going to schools and organizing that and trying to get some really awesome ideas for reaching net zero. It's just, I think I really enjoy what kids of that age can come up with. Their ideas are pretty unique and interesting. So, but yeah, there's always been support for doing STEM work, mental health and well-being as well. I'm part of the mental health first aider group, and I really like the push for well-being and the importance that's put on your mental health in Atkins. So I think that's a big part of me.
Yeah, cool. How about for you, Monserrat? Do you have anything to add on what it's like to work for Atkins and the culture?
Yes, I was really surprised when I first got into the secondment this last September, because I really like even the building. I really like it, that you have rooms for even mindfulness, for prayers, like all in this well-being. I was thinking, wow, this is amazing. And then you have lunch and learns that I joined some of them, like to learn French or Spanish. I mean, I'm from Spain, but I could help other people to learn Spanish, but I like learning French as well, and I joined those. Everyone is really welcoming. Everyone really supported me from the first day, and I found that apart from we are all female, I think we are from different countries as well. I mean, it's like a really diverse atmosphere, Atkins, and that's one of the things I really appreciate, because I've been here in the UK for only like 3-4 years, and I really appreciate when my ideas or my culture, like my Spanish culture, is really welcomed as well. and I don't get any judgment or things like that if I explain myself properly. And I feel Atkins is really safe, and everyone is really supporting and welcoming. So, yeah, I'm really happy.
That's great. That's really nice to hear. Yeah, I feel the same as well. A few other things to mention are, well, we've kind of already talked about work-life balance, but there is the possibility to do, not necessarily the 40-hour week, but my line manager did a 4-day week and reduced her hours, and it's very much, Atkins will, if you need to change your hours, that's something that you can talk about. If you start a family, for example, Atkins are very, especially within engineering, they're really keen to keep the female engineers that they have. So, across the business anyway, they are very flexible and I think quite forward thinking in terms of work-life balance. But that's something to bear in mind, especially longer term, thinking about your working pattern, because obviously work takes up such a huge chunk of your life. So it's important that it works for you and that you enjoy it. A couple of other things to mention is that there's a lot of opportunities for training. So as a event HVAC engineer, my team are always encouraging us to look on the very extensive catalogue of training that we have, which Atkins will fund. And it's very much a case of, if you want to do particular training, I don't know, in project management, there's so many trainings you can do, then you really have the power to make your case and agree that with your line manager, as we have a budget for training and development is really important. Another thing to add, I've got down here projects outside of day job. So as a graduate, I was quite impressed with the amount of opportunities that there are to spend time doing, quote, non-productive work, but there is work. So as a consultancy, we bill each hour of work to a client or to a project, but there are also opportunities to do things like getting involved with the networks. I was involved with the engineering net zero team. We did some outreach to primary schools, as Sarah was mentioning earlier. That's another thing to add, is the volunteering days. We get 2 days a year to volunteer, so that was one of my volunteering days. Yeah, there's lots of other things you can get involved in within the business. So I was involved in writing the weekly newsletters for Bristol, but there are lots of networks you can get involved in. You can organise talks, events. You really have the power to do that if you want to make a change. I think Atkins are very keen to encourage its employees to do that. So why should someone consider working for Atkins? Sarah, could you think of anything for that question?
Probably no, in addition to what we've said, really.
Yeah.
I think that kind of sums it up. The culture is really good. The support is there. The training. Even as a senior, I still have plenty of seniors that I can call on to ask questions of and learn more from. And the support has always been there for me to grow and develop, which for me is really important. And yeah, as we say, all the extracurricular activities is really good. It's easy to meet someone else who has something else in common with you that you want to work on or do, or yeah, it's.
Yeah, I would like to add something on that, because I'm not part of the graduate scheme at Atkins itself, but I found it really easy to get to know other graduates, because there are so many platforms and so many groups to meet them, and so many kind of events, social events, and inside the office and outside of the office. And I started to meet other graduates, even though I am not in the same kind of position and stuff. And I found it really, yeah, as I said, not only like your teams or line manager, it's like even the graduates when you start, when the intake that you apply to and that intake starts, I think you can find easily like friends and get on like days out or the trips. I think they organize trips as well. Some of the things are new to me as well. I've only been here 2 months, but I didn't know about the 2 days volunteering. It's really exciting as
Yeah.
well. And
Can you still hear me? I think I've lost Monserrat. Hello?
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not sure whose
Yes,
connection cut out. It might have been mine. Can anybody hear me? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, I think I just lost you for a minute.
I can hear everyone. So.
But yeah, to add to what Monserrat was saying, that's good. To add to what Monserrat was saying, yeah, there are a lot of events organised, and that's something I've noticed as a graduate. There's the GAP community, which is for graduates, apprentices, and placement students. And this is quite a big thing. There are lots of events that have been organised. It was kind of difficult when I started in October 2020, as with COVID, things were still a bit difficult in terms of socialising. But there were a lot of online events at that time, and now that we've moved out of that a little bit, in this summer we had a team building weekend away, which was really fun, and the volunteers who organise, well, it's non-productive work again, but the people who put themselves forward to get involved with the GAP community, they're really at liberty to organise any events. So we do a lot of socialising. I've done pottery painting recently. There's been roller skating. There's also, as well as the GAP community, there's the SSC, which I think is Sports and Social Committee, something along those lines. But they organise lots of events for people within the business. I think we had a few Halloween-related fireworks nights. So
we did a trip to the Wave as well, which was
oh
good fun.
wow! I was really annoyed that I missed that, because that was a good discount as well.
Yeah, they do. That's the whole point. So you pay like a £2 per month membership to the SSC, and then you get like hugely discounted events and stuff. And they normally do like a ski trip and a surf trip, I think, every year. But I've yet to see a surf trip, but I was aware of a ski trip when I first joined. But yeah, those hopefully will start up again and be back in full flow by the time everyone joins us next year.
Yeah, exactly. Those are things to look forward to. A question for you, Liz. Well, a couple of questions. What tips would you give to a graduate joining Atkins, and kind of how can they make the most of the graduate scheme?
Okay, so once you joined, if you're successful, which hopefully most people are, I would say making the most of the opportunities around you. I found I was very lucky when I joined. My line manager had work lined up for me straight away. So literally you have to do all these induction things initially on your first day or so, but after that I was straight into work, which was great. But a big part of being in a consultancy is sometimes when you're on smaller projects is finding work. It's not necessarily your own responsibility to find work. It's your responsibility to let your line manager know, and for them to help you find work. But I, from the start, was kind of actively looking for work myself, which, I don't know, everyone thought was impressive, but in my eyes, it meant that I could kind of target certain areas that I wanted to work in. So as I said, like I got on the graphite core project because it was something I was interested in. So I kind of used my initiative to try and get on that project. But equally, there are quite a few different teams, and your role or the team that you're in isn't as black and white as it sounds. So I joined plant systems and safety, but was often doing kind of projects with people from design and analysis. So kind of seeing what they do, because they've got lots of different technical expertise areas, which I was interested to explore a bit. And everyone's very receptive, especially if you're actively looking for productive work. People generally want to include you on projects that you're keen to be on, because you're more likely to be successful in them and work effectively. So that's something I would say is kind of figure out kind of what you want to do, or if you just want to try a few different things, then try and just kind of meet people. It's a great opportunity to network as well, asking about work and what people are working on, and see what's out there, and then try and kind of find stuff that you want to get involved in, because people are receptive to that.
I would totally agree. Yeah, I think it's important to show that initiative and to go for what you want to do, and that will will reap the benefits in the future, because as you said, it is impressive when somebody is being assertive and approaching opportunities and looking for those opportunities and networking. So I think that's a great way to make the most of the graduate scheme. In terms of the application process, I will talk a small bit about what I experienced, and if there are any questions at the end, I will be happy to answer them. So there's the online assessment, and I had a telephone interview, I think, before the actual assessment day. I think it might be virtual this year, so probably I'm not sure if that will change soon. But my assessment centre day was it was long, but looking back, it was good, because it meant that if there was one particular session you didn't feel you performed too well in, you had the opportunity to show your strengths in other sessions. So that was something I really liked. I did a few interviews, and I found that the Atkins one was my favourite, for want of a better word, because there felt like there were multiple opportunities to display your strengths. So there was I think there was a written kind of consultancy task, and also a team building task, teamwork, as well as a couple of interviews. So a few technical questions we were given to look at on the day, I believe, although I've heard that they might be sending them out in advance now. And yeah, then some interviews to just kind of talk through these technical questions and talk about yourself as well, and show that you are passionate and that you're really interested and keen. And yeah, and then I got the call, and there's the opportunity to talk about make sure in the interview as well, if there's a particular area that you want to go into, such as decommissioning or new build, or any particular projects you're interested in, because it really shows that A, you've done your reading, and B, it's in your best interest if there is something that you're passionate about and a project you want to get involved in. I wonder, Sarah, as a senior engineer, could you give us a few ideas on what you would be looking for in a graduate, or what you think makes a good new starter to the business?
Ooh. Probably personally someone who's just keen to get involved and try things out, has, I guess, approachable good question. But I think most of it's probably about the attitudes towards work and people, as opposed to the real technical knowledge, because you'll develop that as you go. That's something you can pick up, or you can choose to go into other areas of the business. But yeah, it's really about how you work with other people, and how you approach your work as well, your integrity and things like that.
Cool, thanks for that. I think that's the end of our questions that we've pre-prepared. So now we will, I'll ask a few questions of Liz, because she's involved in some of the networks, which we like to just go into a little bit more depth. And then after that, we should have about 10 minutes left for questions if anybody has some. Okay, so Liz, could you tell us a bit about the networks that you're involved in?
Yes, so at Atkins, something I didn't realise when I was applying, but we have a kind of umbrella of ED&I networks. So ED&I is a big thing for Atkins. It stands for Equality, Diversity and Inclusion. And so within our overall ED&I kind of umbrella, we've got all these individual kind of employee-led networks. I'm heavily involved in the Empower Network, which is for gender balance. So it was formerly known as the Women's Professional Network, but kind of we've rebranded because to kind of make it more inclusive and just get our mission statement clearer, because our goal is gender balance. So it just made things clearer for everyone. We've got the Embrace Network, which is for the BAME community. We've got Equilibrium, which is for the LGBTQ+ community. We've got Enable, which is for those affected by disability. And within that, we've got like the Neurodiversity Network. And I mean, that's just to name a few, but we have quite a few networks which, yeah, people are keen to have people get involved with. As I said, I'm involved with the Empower Network, and I have been for about a year. So I actually sit on the committee of the network, and I coordinate internal events that we have. So like lunch and learns, and different webinars, or like panel events to celebrate kind of International Women's Day or International Men's Day, kind of just stuff like that really. So which people can dial into and learn stuff about. Kind of sometimes we're presenting facts and figures, sometimes we're just having like an open conversation to raise awareness of issues. Just there's quite a lot of variety of stuff that goes on. I think I took part in some I Am Remarkable workshops that we hosted this year, which was really good. So yeah, there's training. I think there's a women's development program that kind of the Empower Network help facilitate, and there's quite a few things that the network does. As I said, I'm more involved with the event side of things, but I know that we also have members of the committee heavily involved in kind of policy and procedures. So I think things have been added onto our kind of sick leave allowance. So stuff like I think really extreme kind of period pain, stuff like the stuff that kind of women suffer from, which hasn't necessarily been recognised before historically. So kind of making it easier for us to coexist with men in an engineering environment, which is always nice. But yeah, so that's kind of an overview of what the Empower Network does specifically. But we do have other ED&I networks as well, so there is support available for people who kind of identify in those different groups.
Yeah, I was particularly impressed with the Inspire Women's Development course, which is run by a company I think called Skills 4, but it's something that Atkins provides to anybody who wants to, any female engineers. And I found this a really beneficial course just for confidence building, and it was really beneficial, because I think sometimes it is generally true that there are a lot fewer women in engineering, so it was really nice to have that network as well of other women in different parts of the Atkins business. We were brought together in these groups, and we learned a lot from each other, and so I was really pleased that Atkins provide that. So another question for you, Liz. How has getting involved with these networks benefited your professional development?
Well, it's had a huge impact, I think. I thought it would just be like quite a cool thing to do, feel quite wholesome, to feel kind of the free time that lockdowns brought. But I actually found just generally like my confidence is hugely grown. I used to get quite daunted about presenting to the client in presentation when giving presentations and stuff. But now, like as part of coordinating events, I kind of have hosted panel events which were made broadcast to the whole of the company. So we had like over 100 people joining. I've also been on panel events, I suppose, a bit like this. So it definitely puts like giving a presentation into perspective. So it's helped a lot in that aspect, and I think I've become a lot more confident as a public speaker as well. But also it's helped in terms of ticking various boxes that may otherwise be difficult to tick on chartership application. So can't think of any off the top of my head, but just kind of I do a lot of admin, like organising, making sure the events we don't have clashes, organising people when perhaps I wasn't able to in my role before because I was just a task engineer. I was kind of not managing people, but people would come to me with issues or questions, and so I was kind of managing those. So getting involved in a network is a really good opportunity to kind of hit those competencies that you're otherwise kind of struggling to hit, depending on kind of what your project's like. But yeah, I think it's definitely had a huge impact, and I've really enjoyed it so far. So yes, I should say as well, we're moving now that we're back to being in the office. We're moving back to like office-based events as well. So kind of meeting those people that I've met virtually will be nice, and kind of using I mean, from what I hear, they used to do quite like low-key events, just like coffee morning, where you meet other women within the business and kind of get talking, which is quite nice. It's quite refreshing to talk to people in different departments as well and meet new people, and get mentors. I managed to get a mentor out of it as well, which is great. So it's a really good opportunity, just either engaging with or getting more involved with the networks.
And I would also say that for pay and promotion, when you have your yearly reviews with your line manager, it must be great. It shows that a lot of initiative and enthusiasm, and in addition with the competencies for mechanical engineering, I think it shows a real value to the business when you get involved with networks like this. So that's another positive, I'm sure.
Something else I just want to say on the side of the networks is that I think they serve a dual purpose. So firstly, they are there to support kind of the people who feel represented by the network group, but also they're inclusive and open to all. So people who want to learn more about kind of the LGBTQ plus community or whatever, they send out a newsletter which I've subscribed to, and I learn a lot about kind of issues that they face that I perhaps would never have even realised. And so there is like an allyship side to that, and they're very inclusive of you going to their events and learning more and stuff, but also they provide that support for those who need and want it.
Great. I think we have time now if anybody has questions on the chat. But before that, is there anything that anybody else wants to add? Maybe they've forgotten something, or maybe I didn't ask all of the questions. Just want to give that opportunity now before we open the floor to the viewers. No? Okie dokie. Let's see if we've got any questions. We have lots of questions. Okay. 1 second, I'm just going to zoom in. So in the comments section, how do you support women in Atkins? That's a question from Sarah. I'll answer a little bit of this one. I suppose we've kind of covered this already. So with the Empower network that Liz is involved with, that supports women, well, it's a gender balance network, but it's something that we can use to promote awareness and arrange events. And I don't know, Liz, if maybe you want to continue.
Yes, I think it was. I mean, it is for women, but also inclusive of men who want to kind of raise awareness and become allies and what have you. And because our aim is to achieve gender equality, so there is a lot of support available. So we've got that Women in Development program. We have our I Am Remarkable workshops, which is some like Google initiative that are open to all, but kind of advertised through kind of the ED&I groups, because it's traditionally the kind of smaller minority groups that require or kind of lacking confidence and require a bit more help in the way of development sometimes. So there are things that are available to support women, but also just generally kind of a lot of people work part-time in the Bristol office anyway. I've noticed in nuclear and power, people quite senior work 3 or 4 days a week because they're sharing childcare. A lot of them are men actually, which is quite refreshing and nice to see, and leading by example. And there's no negative connotations with working part-time at all. So, and as I said, the network kind of members of the committee and the network are influencing kind of the policies.
I think
and stuff.
My connection's not great.
Oh, can the others hear me fine? Or is it me?
I can hear you fine. Yeah.
I'll just carry on. Sorry, Laura. But yeah, so we're influencing policies, internal policies, but also kind of job descriptions, and making sure that they're gender neutral and not kind of excluding anyone just from the language kind of subconsciously used in that. Yeah, I would mention as well, this year we won the Employee Network of the Year award at the ETA Awards, so the Engineering Talent Awards this year, because we've kind of had so much impact this year. We've been doing kind of focus groups with senior women within the business in different teams, and seeing kind of what their thoughts are and where they think we need to improve as a company. And we have the results from those processed, and we're kind of all of the departments within Atkins are keen to engage with that and see how that they can use that information and improve, kind of make those improvements that people think necessary. But yeah, I think there is a lot of support there, and just need to kind of engage with it and yeah, know it's there. Laura, have we got you back? I'm going to assume not.
Laura?
So I'm just going to take over while Laura's not here. So,
Hello?
Oh, can you hear us, Laura?
Hi, I'm really sorry.
Okay.
I can't really see or hear anything. I wonder if maybe if you can hear me. Are you able to see the other questions and go through them?
Yes.
Yeah, we can do that. Yep.
Cool. So the next question was, are there any top tips before applying
Liz
for
has
a
offered to
graduate
take
role?
over. Great.
So top tips for applying for a graduate role, I would say, I think these apply generally, but make sure you tailor your application. Make sure you show and demonstrate that you've done your research and kind of that your reasoning for wanting to join Atkins makes sense. We want to know that you're interested in joining us, and although we recognise you'll be applying to other places, it's nice to show that you have we are a priority and that you have kind of put the time in there. I don't know if either kind of Monserrat or Sarah want to add to that.
No, I think that's probably, yeah, about right.
Actually, it's really important to tailor the application, because everyone knows that you'll be applying, and I apply to many different graduate programs or scheme, but the ones I really wanted to get into are the ones that I was really focusing on the deadlines, on the research, on everything, and always have had other ones that I applied to, but the important ones I really did my research, and I tailored the application. And even though I went to careers fairs or met people from the business, try to get in contact with them, either LinkedIn or any other platforms, like show interests. It's a really important thing.
Yeah. Cool, thank you. So next question is someone asking, how do they apply? I believe if you just Google Atkins early careers, will probably come up. Everything's on the website, kind of graduate schemes, internships, whatever you're interested in will all be on there. And I found Atkins actually, when I was applying, very, you could basically see all the different office locations, see the different teams, and there was like breakdowns of what each team does, which I found really good. A lot of companies aren't that transparent with where you could be working and stuff like that, and you can select specific office locations. I would say roles are open now. They have been for since September, I think, and I am aware. Sorry, I'm just checking a message because we did get an update. Some of the graduates' applications have already closed. The next closing date is the 3rd of December, so this Friday. But kind of some of those will be extended into the new year, depending on how many applications we've received. We are hiring a lot more roles this year. We've actually managed to do relatively well and keep ourselves in quite good shape over the last couple of years, despite COVID, especially nuclear, because nuclear doesn't stop. But yeah, so we're recruiting a lot of roles at the moment. So please do take a look. It might be that some of the office locations have closed, but others remain open. And if you really, really want to work for Atkins but aren't keen on a certain office location that is being recruited, I'm sure something could be worked around, kind of working virtually or something, and maybe kind of transitioning to a different office location in the future. That's something to kind of ask the recruiters. But I'm sure if you really, really want to work for Atkins and you are a good candidate, then I'm sure there'll be something that can be worked out if you have missed the date for your office location. where are the roles available? So that's all on the website. As I said, we are quite transparent in what teams are located where. Bristol is quite a big hub for nuclear power, hence why we're all Bristol based. But I think Warrington might have some. I can't remember off the top of my head. Laura had all this information, so forgive me. But yeah, it will all be on the website, so fret not. And how long does it take to get chartership was another question. I don't know, Sarah, you're probably best placed to answer this one.
Oh, I think I did it before. So mine was about 5 years, but I did it before they had the really structured chartership process. So I think it's about 3 years now, if I'm not mistaken.
It really depends, actually. I'm working towards chartership now, and as I worked before joining Atkins, I am claiming this experience, and I have a mentor, and they told me could be done in 3 years, but more or less people do it right now in 4. Kind of.
Okay. That's useful to know as well. Like Atkins do support the MPDS, so Monitored Professional Development Scheme that the IMechE kind of run. So we do support that, and you get a mentor through Atkins for that. But it's worth noting that if you don't want to do that and want to do direct entry, you can. I think that's what I'm opting to do. So that's the option's yours. But yeah, I've heard kind of 3 to 5 years, depending on kind of what roles you just need to be switched on about what competencies you're lacking and try and target those at the right time. But this is what consultancy work is quite good, because you've got quite a huge variety in projects that you can be doing. And then our final question is how much knowledge of nuclear energy is required before the interview? In terms of, I think it's beneficial to know kind of what's going on in the country and worldwide in terms of nuclear, more so in the country and in Europe. So know where our nuclear stations are, know which ones are currently generating, know which ones are currently in development for new build, kind of any decommissioning sites. It depends on what area you're looking to apply for. So if you're looking at new build, then you need to be clued up in what's going on and what kind of things you'd want to get involved with. And likewise for decommissioning, you need to know decommissioning sites and stuff like that, I imagine. But you do get like an intro training when you join, so you don't need to know inside out. I wouldn't stress too much about it, as long as you've done your research and know kind of what projects Atkins are involved in and what's going on in the world, and just have kind of an awareness of what's going on, especially with engineering net zero, because nuclear is playing a key part in that. But yeah, just kind of do some generic research, find out what's going on, have an awareness, and they're not expecting you to know as much as us, because we know insider information. But yeah, as long as you have an interest there, then I wouldn't stress. I don't know if either of you guys want to add anything to that.
I guess just, we wouldn't expect a deep technical knowledge of what's going on inside the reactor and how to calculate anything.
No.
It's just a general knowledge of the industry to show that interest, as you've said, Liz. So don't think there's any need to try and read any further on the internet if you can find anything. Really understand the ins and outs of radioactivity, etc.
I think all the technical stuff that you do need to know, you'll be taught or pointed in the direction of various kind of research papers or textbooks or whatever you might need, or training courses.
It's more about being enthusiastic and passionate about the sector, and maybe because it's critical in the world, or maybe because you are attracted to nuclear from an early age, of just more about showing passion and maybe doing a little bit of research and awareness, as they said, about events or new things that they are developing.
Awesome. Well, I think that's everything. That's the last of the questions. I realise we've run over by a few minutes, so apologies for that. But I hope everyone has enjoyed the event, and obviously thanks to Laura for hosting it and organising it, even though she's not got the pleasure of closing the event herself. So sorry about that, Laura. She can't hear me either. But but yeah, so thanks everyone for dialing in. And obviously, if you have any further questions, I think you can use we have a mailbox. So you can email graduates@atkinsglobal.com. I think it should be on our early careers website. So if you're not sure, just contact us through that early careers website. That will be kind of methods of contacting the recruitment team. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.